It looks like a funeral. A lone crow lies still on a patch of suburban grass. Its wing is slightly ruffled by the wind. Its eye is closed. The body is quiet in a way that feels heavier than silence. Then another crow lands nearby. It does not rush forward. It does not touch the body. It does not feed. It simply stands there, watching. Soon, more crows arrive. One lands on a fence. Another settles on a branch. Then another. A circle of black feathers slowly forms around the fallen bird. The scene feels strange. Almost human. It feels like a wake. But is it grief? Or is it something even more fascinating? To understand the crow, we must understand how it faces the end. Scientists call this field corvid thanatology, the study of how crows and their relatives respond to death. And the more we observe them, the more unsettling the question becomes. Because crows do not ignore their dead. They stop. They gather. They call. They remember. When a crow discovers the body of another crow, the atmosphere changes instantly. The first bird may release a sharp, intense alarm call. This is not a feeding call. It is not a casual social sound. It is a summons. A message to the flock. Come here. Something has happened. Within minutes, other crows may arrive, descending from rooftops, trees, wires, and nearby territories. The sky fills with black wings. The living gather around the dead. But they usually keep their distance. They look. They listen. They scan the area. They do not treat the body as food. They treat it as information. That is the first clue. A crow funeral may look like mourning, but it is also a classroom. For a crow, a dead companion is not only a tragedy, it is a warning, it is a question written in feathers. What killed you? Is the danger still nearby? Was it a hawk, a cat, a human, a car poison, a trap? The flock gathers to study the scene. Every branch becomes a lookout point. Every shadow becomes suspicious. If a predator is nearby, the gathering may explode into mobbing. Crows will scream, dive, and attack, turning grief into collective defense. The death of one becomes the survival lesson of many. This is called the risk assessment theory. A crow funeral teaches the living how not to become the next body on the grass. And that is what makes the behavior so powerful. Crows are not simply reacting emotionally. They are building a memory of danger. They mark the place. They mark the face. They mark the pattern. If a human is seen near a dead crow, crows may remember that person as dangerous. Not for a few minutes. Not for a day. sometimes for years. The face becomes linked with death. The lesson enters the social network, and other crows may learn it too. One bird sees. The flock remembers. The next generation survives. But does this mean they feel grief? That is where science becomes careful. We cannot prove that a crow feels sadness exactly the way a human does. We cannot enter its mind and ask what loss means to it. But we can observe the body, the brain, and the behavior. When crows encounter death, their stress rises, their alarm calls intensify, their attention sharpens, their behavior changes. Brain regions involved in fear, memory, and emotional processing become deeply relevant to the event. The amygdala matters. Memory matters. Social connection matters. To a crow, the world has suddenly become more dangerous and more lonely. Maybe it is fear. Maybe it is grief. Maybe it is both. And maybe the boundary between them is not as clean as we think. Because grief itself may have begun as survival. When someone close disappears, the nervous system searches for meaning. What happened? Where are they? Am I safe? Is the group still intact? The pain of loss may be tied to the need to learn from it. Crows live in complex social worlds. They recognize individuals. They remember relationships. They cooperate, compete, warn, and teach. Many crows form long-term pair bonds, sometimes staying with one mate for life. A partner is not just company. A partner is protection, a co-parent, a territory defender, a food-sharing ally, a second mind watching the world. When one crow loses its mate, it may lose its entire social balance. The survivor becomes vulnerable. Rivals may challenge the territory. The nest may become harder to defend. The daily rhythm is broken. The bird that once moved through life as half of a pair must now face the world alone. This is not romantic fantasy. This is survival biology. A widowed crow may need to rebuild its entire life. Find a new partner. Defend a new boundary. Re-enter the politics of the flock. Survive the absence of the one bird that knew it best. Loss changes the map of the world. And crows appear to notice when others are distressed. In some social birds, we observe behavior that looks like consolation. One individual approaches another after conflict or loss. Nudging, staying close, preening, or reducing tension. In crows, social support matters. A flock is not only a crowd, it is a web. When one strand breaks, the whole web feels the vibration. This is why the gathering around death feels so meaningful. The crows are not simply looking at a body. They are checking the network. Who is gone? Who remains? What danger entered our world? How do we change our behavior now? The funeral becomes a census, a warning, a memory ceremony, a social repair event. Even the silence matters. Sometimes, crows gather and pause in a stillness that feels almost ritualistic. They may stay frozen on fences, branches, and rooftops, staring down at the body. This may be the data collection phase, a moment of intense observation before the calls begin again. To human eyes, it feels respectful. To science, it may be risk assessment. To the crow, perhaps it is both. Nature does not always separate emotion from function. The same behavior can protect the group and express distress at the same time. A crow avoids the body because the body may carry danger, but it also stays nearby. That contradiction is haunting. Fear says leave. Social intelligence says stay and learn. Attachment says, do not look away. The crow remains. That is why this behavior feels so close to us. When humans gather around death, we also do many things at once. We mourn. We remember. We ask what happened. We warn the living. We comfort the survivors. We turn the loss into a story. So the dead are not simply gone. Crows may not write eulogies, but they create memory. A death site can become a no-go zone. A dangerous face can become a warning. A predator can become a shared enemy. Young crows can learn from older ones where not to go and whom not to trust. In this way, the dead continue to protect the living. Their absence becomes information. Their fall becomes wisdom. This is the intelligence of the black-feathered mourner. And it forces us to rethink what mourning means. Maybe grief is not only a human emotion. Maybe it is part of a larger pattern found wherever social life becomes deep enough, memory becomes strong enough, and loss becomes meaningful enough to change behavior. Elephants touch the bones of their dead. Dolphins may stay near a lifeless companion. Crows gather, call, and study. Different bodies, different minds. The same mystery. What does life do when it recognizes an ending? The crow does something extraordinary. It stops. In a world where most animals flee from death, the crow pauses to understand it. That pause may be one of the most intelligent acts in nature. Death is a mystery to all living things. But the crow is one of the few birds that seems to turn death into a lesson. Not because it understands mortality like a philosopher. Not because it holds a funeral the way humans do. But because it knows that a dead body changes the world. Something happened here. Something dangerous. Something worth remembering. As the sun lowers, the gathered crows begin to lift from the branches. On. They leave the scene, The circle breaks. The grass is quiet again. But the lesson remains. The place is marked in memory. The danger has a shape. The flock has learned. The living carry the dead forward. A single crow stays behind for a moment, its eye reflecting the orange light of sunset. It looks down once more, then opens its wings and follows the others into the darkening sky. It looks like a funeral. It feels like a wake. And perhaps the truth is not one answer. Perhaps it is grief and intelligence, fear and memory, love and survival, science and poetry. Perhaps we have more in common with them than we think. Death is the great question. And the crow, dressed in black, is still studying it.